Hello, I'm Katie. I'm going to be your teacher on this virtual workshop, so I'll be the person behind the hands and the voice that you're going to be seeing and hearing a lot of in all the video demonstrations. Anyway, now I've introduced myself, let me introduce you to the project we'll be making. Okay, so here we are. Let me introduce my International Beading Week beaded box. Basically, I've taken the International Beading Week theme, the little coloured people that symbolises bringing beaders together, and also just the colour theory that we use in beading, and I've used those to decorate the sides of my box. So if I turn them around, you can see we go through all the colours. Now, this box you can make in either size 11 beads, as you see here, or size 10 delicas. So that just gives you a sense of the difference in size between the two of them. If this is your first beaded box, I strongly recommend using the size 10s because it's just going to be easier to do the fiddly little bits around the lid and the lip and so on. Talking of lid, let me show you how that works. So it's a little lid on a hinge. Now again, I've taken the beaded people colours and I've used them to create the colouring on the lids. It may look a bit weird, but the reason I've done it is it's going to help you understand the structure of the hexagon peyote shape you're using, and also I've done the same mixed up colours here inside the lip section, both on the box and on the lid, and again that colouring is going to help you understand how everything works. So to give you a sense of scale, what can you put in your box? Well, I've got a reel of Nymo here. That'll fit in the little box. It's actually, if you measure it, it's about 1.5 inches from side to side and similar in height. The bigger box, I think, would probably take some more goodies, maybe a small bag of beads, maybe some chocolate or something to spoil someone. That measures about 2 inches side to side and it's about 1.5 inches high. So hopefully that gives you some idea of what it is you're going to be making, and I hope you like them. You're going to start by picking up 3 beads. You want to slide them along your thread, just leaving a small tail thread that you can stitch in later. Then we're going to pass through all 3 beads again, starting from bead number 1 and going to bead number 3. So as you then pull up your thread, they turn into a little circle. I'm just going to continue on through another bead to make sure that my circle is secure. So that basically completes your first row. Now the next row is an increase row. So we're picking up 2 beads, pass through the next bead from the circle. Pull your thread up tight because it's important to get good tension right from the beginning. So again, pick up 2 beads, pass through the next bead from the circle. If you look at how I'm holding my beads, it's allowing me to clamp my thread so that I'm keeping that good tension that I just mentioned. So in this final stitch, we picked up 2 beads. We're passing through the bead from the original circle, so that completes the second row, but you then need to step up, which is literally just passing through the first bead from the row you've just added. So we're ready for the next row now. In this row, just pick up 1 bead, pass through the next bead from your previous row. Again, pick up 1 bead, through the next bead from your previous row. So this 1 bead then passes through the second bead in a pair, which is the same thing as the next bead from your previous row. Again, 1 bead. This time it's through the first bead in the next pair, again just the same thing as the next bead from your previous row. 1 bead through the next bead, and this brings us neatly to the end of the row. So again we've got that step up manoeuvre. So we're passing through the last bead from the previous row and the first bead from this row. So you can see we're starting to get a sort of circular shape here. Now the next row would be another increase row. So again I've put 2 beads on the needle and I'm just passing through the next bead from my previous row. again 2 beads on the needle, pass through the next bead from the previous row. So you can see this stitch is working exactly the same way on each row. The only thing that's changing is how many beads you're picking up. You've got the bead counts in the pattern, so as you work I suggest that you take out the number of beads you need for each row before you start the row. And you can just check, it's easy to spot whether you've made any mistakes. If you've got beads left over or too few beads, then possibly something's gone wrong. So that's a simple way to just keep an eye on things as you're working. So this finishes off this row again with the step up, and our circular shape is growing outwards. So that just gives you basic introduction to the circular peyote. I want to quickly show you how to decrease in tubular peyote. So I've got a little tube that I've made here using much bigger beads, so you can see what I'm doing more easily, I hope. I'm going to use a different colour bead for the actual decrease so you can see clearly what's happening. Now we might start the tube by picking up one bead, passing through the next sticking up bead, so that's the bead from your previous row. If we then want to make a decrease, we're still going to pick up one bead, going to pass through the next bead, and then the bead after that as well. So in effect you've got a space in the new row with no bead in it. If you then pull the thread up tight and clamp it, the 2 beads from your previous row are pulled in tight together. From there you can just continue the row as normal. So again, pick up one bead, pass through the next bead. Let me just in this last stitch show you that increase one more time. So we're picking up one bead, we're passing through the next bead and the bead after that. Now it just so happens this brings me to the end of the row, so I would then have my step up through the first bead from this row that I've just completed. Now if we take a look, you can see the places where we've made the decrease, we've got a slightly bigger gap where those 2 beads are pulling inwards. So as we bead the next row, we're going to pick up one bead, pass through one bead. In that bigger gap you might feel like you want to add 2 beads, but you're still going to pick up one bead, pass through the next bead. And you can see if I angle it a bit differently, that's actually pulling the tube sort of inwards a little bit. So let me just finish off this row. And again, clamping your thread is going to help keep the tension tight, because that's what's really going to pull your tube inwards and make those decreases give you the shaping you're after. So that gives you the tubular decrease. Now, if I just put that to one side, let me just bring in the box, and you can see I've actually done my little decrease section for the lip. So we've got 2 white beads that are pulled in together in the corners, and that's where I would have made the decrease. In the next row we've got 1 bead that sits over the space, and then we've got the following row where we've just got a normal row, and that's all pulling up just very slightly into a narrower tube. If I turn it around, I've got my thread back exiting from my final row of white beads, so I'm ready now to add the stitch in the ditch row for the next part of the lip. Now let me show you how the stitch in the ditch technique works. I've got a little sample here that I've beaded up already with 2 colours of beads. So I want to add my stitch in the ditch row onto my first row of black beads. Now in effect, stitch in the ditch is just adding another peyote row on top of an existing row. So the technique remains exactly the same as you've been using. We're going to pick up 1 bead, pass through the next bead from the previous row. The only difference is, in this instance, your previous row already has beads attached to it, so you're not able to see beads that are sticking up, the traditional up beads we might refer to. You just need to take care that you continue to stitch through the correct beads. So in this sample it's nice and easy because it's always that first row of black beads. But if all your beads were the same colour, you'd need to really watch the peyote pattern. Now that's bringing me up to a corner where I've actually got a pair of black beads from the row that I'm stitching onto. So in this instance, I'm going to add one bead between that pair. So I've just passed out of the first bead in the pair, got my new bead on the needle, and I'm going to go through the second bead in the pair. So we can just carry on as normal. Just point that out because if you are making a box, then you will quite often be adding beads between pairs of beads that have been pulled in, whether it's to increase or to decrease in some other part of the box shaping. So you can see this is just perfectly straightforward peyote, continuing all the way around. And of course, when I get to the other end of the row, I would have my step up just as normal. I could do this on a circular piece, as I am doing, or on a tubular piece, which is what you'll do for the box base. So let me just put this to one side and bring in the box lid. And I've actually done my stitch in the ditch row, so you can see that here, and you can see how the beads are sticking up on that. Then for this lip section, you're going to have a second row that just goes on top. So you're literally just working in tubular peyote, and what that's doing is bringing that little inner lip section sort of to stick outwards or upwards, depending on what angle you're looking at it, but almost at a 90-degree angle to the hexagon shape that you had to start with. So hopefully that all makes sense, and you've got a better understanding now of how the stitch in the ditch works, because you're going to be using it every time you make a lip, whether it's for a lid or a box base. Well, that gives you a little taste of some of the techniques you'll be using to make your beaded box. I've given you a link down below, so you can use that if you're ready now to go on and try the whole course and make the complete project. Thanks for watching. Bye!